Okay, then I would like to call to order. I hearing myself echo. I'd like to call to order the Education Committee of the Whole meeting of the Board of Directors of the School District for the City of Allentown for today, August 11th, 2022. Prior to tonight's meeting, an executive session was held to discuss confidential and legal matters. The board welcomes and invites public comment. You may address the board on agenda and or non-agenda items, and the first opportunity for comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited to agenda items only. If you do choose to address the board, please fill out a comment card located at the podium by the door and hand it to Mr. Sickett sitting over here. Comment cards, I already said that. Once recognized, please come to the podium, state your name and city of residence for the record, and kindly limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Dr. Stanford, do you have any remarks?
Madam Chairwoman, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for those of you to know, Dr. Stanford's joining us remotely. He's feeling under the weather this evening. At this time, we are only taking public comments on agenda items. Do we have any?
I don't have any.
Okay. Then that brings us to the first order of business, which is, thank you very much, a presentation by the folks from the Century Promise who have joined us here today. Dr. Stanford, I will punt to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It is my honor and my pleasure to present to the board this evening and to the community an update on the Century Promise. As we know, this was the vision of Superintendent Parker and Mr. Butts. And so tonight we are just going to give the board a brief history of that vision and the initiative overall. We will then provide an overview of the ongoing work that has occurred in the last several months. We will then share the collaborative work that the Allentown School District has been engaged with the Century Promise, and give the board an overview of the MOU that we are working on with the Century Promise to really spell out the objectives of this initiative and how we are going to measure the success of the program going forward. And then last but not least, want to share the status of our partnerships with other organizations in the area that are contributing to our students in the early years so that they will be ready for that transition from high school into the Century Promise opportunity that is being made available through this initiative. And so with that overview and introduction, I am now going to turn it over to the board chairman of the Century Promise, Mr. Lee Butts.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to our story, and thank you for all that you do for the children in the Allentown School District, the children in our community. Let me start by talking about the Century Fund, because that's where the Century Promise came from. That's how it started. The Century Fund was founded by Mr. Donald P. Miller, who was publisher of the Allentown Morning Call. And 26 years ago, he set up a fund called the Century Fund for the purpose of benefiting people in the Lehigh Valley. Over the last perhaps decade, we've concentrated mostly on issues in the city of Allentown. And the Century Fund had a life that by charter of 25 years. So a year ago, we had to bring the Century Fund to an end. Over the 25 years, the Century Fund donated over $54 million to various initiatives in our Lehigh Valley, but primarily in the city of Allentown. And when we got close to our sunset over a year ago, we wanted to do something at the end that would have the greatest impact on our community. And we had about $6 million still remaining to give away. And so we invited various agencies to come and give us presentations as to what they suggested we might best spend our remaining $6 million on. And it was interesting that almost all of them made suggestions that were connected to the Allentown School District. It was very obvious that our community is extremely aware of the importance of the Allentown School District to the future success of our community. And we looked at all of these various initiatives, and we asked Mr. Parker if he could give us some thoughts about what is going on in the Allentown School District, to see if there is something in particular that we could do to help make it successful. And one of the things that he pointed out to us was how difficult things are at the moment in getting the children to do better in reading and math. We knew that there were problems, but it was rather alarming to us. And some of the things that were especially alarming were the fact that the school district is graduating every year, and some of them don't graduate, but graduating every year, hundreds of kids with no employable skills. And at the same time, there are any number of businesses in our community who are desperately looking for skilled labor. We thought, my gosh, there must be a way to put those two things together. So we did a lot of thinking about it. We thought, what is the reason that the kids don't do better in reading and math? They're not dumb. They're just as smart as any of the kids in the suburbs. Why don't they do better? And we came to the conclusion that they do not have the incentive. The kids in the suburbs know pretty well that if they do well in school, they're going to do pretty well in their careers. They're told that, just like the kids in the Allentown School District are told that, but the kids in the suburbs believe it. The kids in the Allentown School District, a lot of them don't believe it. They hear that story, but they've got too many examples of things where relatives or friends have done pretty well in school and still are on welfare or things like that. And we thought, how could we generate an incentive for these kids? And we talked about it a lot. And one day we said, what if we could tell every fifth grader in the Allentown School District, what if we could guarantee them that if they did well in school, they will have a job when they graduate, a guaranteed employment or a path to a college? And we talked about that a lot. It was obviously, it would provide an incentive, but there were some people who said, what, are you crazy? How would you promise a kid in the fifth grade that when they graduate, they're going to have a job? And we said, well, what if we could get lots and lots of businesses who are desperately looking for skilled employees? What if we could get them to make those kinds of guarantees? And they said, yeah, that would be great, but you're not going to be able to do that. Well, we went out to a dozen different companies and institutions in the Lehigh Valley. And would you believe that every single one of them agreed to take on this opportunity? It was amazing. And we came back and we said, this is doable. And we got together, we had $6 million. We spent our $6 million among a number of agencies who could provide support for the program that we intended to develop. And the agencies we talked to were community services for children, communities and schools, the Da Vinci Center, the middle school transformation program at ASD, the Workforce Investment Board, Lehigh Carbon Community College. All of these people came together, accepted the idea, and accepted funding that we provided for seed money so that they could provide supportive programs. And most of them have done that. Some of them still have funds available to them, but every one of them is going to do that. So we're kind of off and running. We put together a good organization. We found that what we needed was an executive director. We needed a community coordinator who would be embedded in the schools, in the Allentown School District, whose job it would be to sell this program and this is a big job, sell the program to the kids and their parents, keep them on board when they start to drift away after a few months or a couple of years, have an industry coordinator who would keep the businesses providing the kinds of training, helping the school district in providing equipment and training, and of course, office type personnel. We organized a board, and we've got a wonderful board of directors. They represent all different parts of life in the Lehigh Valley. So a few of them are here today. And I don't know if I saw all of them, but Lisa Curran is here, and Nancy Dishanot from the Workforce Investment Board. Is there someone else that's here from our group? But anyway, there's 20 people, and they're the kind of people that can bring to the table a lot of the experiences. Some of the board members are some of you, Mrs. Wilt and Mr. Thiel, Dr. Stanford are all board members. So we've got the organization to put this together, and we're going to do it. I believe that once we get this rolling, it's going to create national attention, because we're going to be doing something that no one else anywhere in this country is doing it. As we were developing this program, we called it the game changer, and it is the game changer. We called it the Century Promise because it's a promise to these kids. And what we have to do is convince them that it is a promise and that it's going to make a huge difference in the quality of their lives forever. I mentioned that we needed to hire an executive director, and we've hired what I consider to be the perfect person for this job. Mr. Yusuf Dahl has a very interesting background. He grew up in Milwaukee. He spent several years in prison. While he was there, he got his GED, and after he got out of prison, he got a degree in the computer field, and he eventually went to Princeton and got a master's degree. He is an amazing example for these kids. He spent 5 years at Lafayette College, working with kids in the minority kids, getting acclimated to college. He started a real estate program in downtown Allentown for people who want to get into that. He's in a position to say to any kid, I know you're having a difficult time, but you don't have it worse than I had it. And look where I've gotten, and you can get that far or even farther. So it's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce you to Yusuf Dahl, who will now take you forward and let you know where we're going from here. So thank you.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and to tell you about the Century Promise. As you can tell from Lee's remarks, we're incredibly fortunate in this community to have such strident leadership and such strident belief in the school district and in our young folks. So beyond grateful to have his support and leadership with this important initiative. As mentioned, I was recruited to this position after 5 years of building the innovation and entrepreneurship program at Lafayette College. And in that role, I had an opportunity to meet a lot of the young and talented folks coming out of ASD. Every year, this district sends students to the best colleges across this country. I mean, you name it, Harvard, Princeton, Lafayette, even Lehigh, we'll give you that. And so it was interesting because not being from this community, it was trying to reconcile what I was seeing from the young folks coming out of this district and kind of the popular narrative that you'll hear, especially from an outsider, right? That the district is not performing in some of these ways. And so when I was told about this opportunity, it piqued my interest because ultimately my passion really is about helping folks take advantage of the opportunities and resources that are in front of them so that they can change the dominant narrative, that they can change the trajectory that perhaps their family is on. And so coming into the Century Promise, really we just had a vision. And the vision was if we could make real the future benefits of education, right? Why do people sacrifice and work hard and study things they don't really care about? Because they believe there's some future benefit. And so what do our students believe the future benefit is? Well, it's a career, right? And so if we can make real that future benefit through this promise, we believe we can change present behavior. That's the vision in theory behind the Century Promise. And that's what I was recruited to bring to life. So when I started this position, maybe 6 months ago now, the first thing we had to understand was, where are the areas of opportunities for our students? And so really grounding our initial work on the talent supply report that was produced by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, I'm sure the Workforce Board, they have their hands in everything. And we're so thankful for Nancy's leadership and support. That report identified 5 high growth areas in the Lehigh Valley. And so we circled in on 3 for our pilot program. 3 high growth areas are healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and professional services. So we went to companies within those spaces and we secured the jobs necessary for our pilot program. But it's more than just jobs that we want for these students, right? We want high opportunity jobs. And so the Department of Labor has produced a really interesting study. It's called the CTOP database. And what they do is they look at particular professions within industry clusters, and they look to see wage growth over the first 5 years in that occupation. And there's some jobs that have robust growth opportunities within them, and there's other jobs where you're just kind of muddling along, if you will. And so we really wanted to be intentional about the opportunities that we were providing our students. So we identified the positions, identified the employers, and the process that we're undertaking is we go to that employer and we say, well, what are the skills necessary for success? Because this is something I believe strongly in. It's not enough to give people opportunity. We do that all the time. You give people opportunity, but if you have not prepared them to take advantage of that opportunity, you've done nothing. And so it's imperative that we not only provide the opportunity, but we prepare them to take advantage of it. So we find out what are the list of skills, and we work very, very closely with Dr. Brandy Sawyer. I know she's here somewhere. And we then translate those skills to courses that exist at ASD and LTRI-C, right? Leveraging those partnerships that we've built. And so the students take these courses, they get experiential learning opportunities. The goal is so these young folks, when they transition into these roles, are value creators from day one. And if we can achieve that, that opens up a lot of opportunities for us. And so that's our focus. We have two pathways we're kind of focusing on right now. One is focusing on high school seniors, and they go through the pathway at graduation. They have a guaranteed job. The other pathway that's incredibly exciting to me, not that the first one isn't, we've worked with some of our partners to identify two-year pathways. So one example of that is a electronic medical records position at Lehigh Valley Health Network. As Lee mentioned, I have a technology background, and if any young person came to me right now and said, Yusuf, what is the technology I should master? There would be no hesitancy in my voice. I would tell them Epic electronic medical records. If you're not familiar with it, I mean, they're the dominant player and everybody is looking for folks with that skill set. So for these students, it's a two-year pathway starting their junior year. They will start to take classes at the district and LTRI-C. So their senior year, they are going to be graduating into positions that typically require post-secondary education. And these are really in demand, high growth, well-paid, family sustaining jobs. And so, you know, having that alternate pathways, right? Students who are looking for 1 year and students who are looking for 2-year pathways, I think really opens up a wide range of possibilities. We're excited to launch this pilot. I'm excited to work with all of you. I know I've reached out to a number of you. Some I've met, some I haven't. Anyone really, not just the board, but folks in the community. If you haven't heard about this program, I'd encourage you to reach out to me and I'd love to share what we're doing. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Sawyer.
You can go to the next slide. So through the process of working through the Century Promise, ASD is an integral part in ensuring that we collaborate with the employers and collaborate with the Century Promise to make sure that students have those skills that the employers are looking for. So we work very tightly with the employers to develop the curriculum and the coursework to not only ensure that they're ready for employment, but also to ensure that they have what they need to graduate according to ASD graduation requirements and according to PDE. We assist with student selection in collaboration with the high school counselors and principals, the staff that's there. All students, with the help of Nancy Dishna, once again, we brought in the workforce employability skills course a couple of years back. So all of our students are taking that so they can learn resume writing, right? Those soft skills that you need to be good employees. And then we collaborate with them just to increase all those opportunities with the Century Promise, bringing in more employers, bringing in more partners. We're looking at industry-based credentials. What can we offer the students to make them more employable? So we're looking at some of those things, new pathways being available in the program of studies for students in the next year or so. And then, you know, we can't forget the opportunity we had within the Century Fund at the beginning, right, was the early college program that we're now in our going into our fourth cohort of students in the early college program. So there's a lot of things that have happened and a lot of things that are going on. And it's a lot of exciting work because as we're doing this, you know, kids are coming out, they're graduating, and they're coming back into the economic diversity of the Lehigh Valley, which is the goal, right? So I will turn it back over to Dr. Stanford.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sawyer. As Mr. Butts shared with all of us at the beginning of this presentation, through the generosity of the Century Fund, they planted the seeds for the future of Allentown School District students to grow and develop and to have opportunities in the future. In addition to the program with the Century Promise, We also have partnerships that are very, very important to making sure that our students are ready to walk through that door of opportunity that the Century Promise is providing to our students. One of those organizations is Communities in Schools. And we've been working with communities and schools for a number of years. But as a part of this initiative, they are working with our students and working with our building principals and building team members with restorative practices in our buildings, making sure that we are using the skills and the training from restorative practices to really provide the foundation for our students to grow and develop later on. We also have a partnership with Community Services for Children, CSC. And we all know how important it is for our students to get off to an early start prior to kindergarten. And so the partnership with CSC is to create more opportunities for our young ones across the district to have that early childhood experience so that when they enter kindergarten, they are ready to learn and they are ready to succeed and to be successful, throughout their experience with the Allentown School District. We are partnering with the Da Vinci Group to provide STEM exposure and STEAM opportunities for our students across the district. The Middle School Transformation Program that is ongoing with our middle schools is progressing and doing well. We also have the partnership with the Workforce Board to provide that industry coordinator that Mr. Butts mentioned earlier, but also to work with us on creating Century Centers in our high schools. And these Century Centers will be a space dedicated to for our students to explore career opportunities and college opportunities that they may be interested in. And then we have the partnership with the Lehigh Carbon Community College to provide our early college program. And that program, I believe, we just graduated the third cohort of that program. And so it is also making progress and growing and develop. And so as our students go through each step on this staircase, at the end of the experience is the Century Promise. And that is that when they graduate from high school, there is an opportunity waiting on them to become employed in the Lehigh Valley. And I mean, this is, as Mr. Butts has said, this is a game changer. It's a game changer. And the reason I'm so excited about it, it's a game changer because it is going to change generations in Allentown. It is going to make opportunities available to our students, and then their children and children's children will have a different trajectory because of this opportunity that we are providing to them and to this community as a whole. And so I am excited that the business community is excited about this program. I am excited that Allentown School District is excited about this program, and am really, really enthusiastically supportive of the program in the direction we are going. So thank you to Dr. Sawyer and Mr. Dahl for the work, to build the capacity of the Century Promise, to have a pilot program this fall. And I want to thank Mr. Butts and the board of the Century Promise for having the vision and having the wherewithal to pull together a program like this for the students of Allentown and for the families of Allentown, so that we can break, break the cycle of not being able to have opportunities at the end of their high school years with the Allentown School District. And so the next thing I wanted to share with you are the next steps and path forward. And one of those next steps is the development of a memorandum of understanding between the Allentown School District and the Century Promise. The main purpose of this MOU will be to, specify the nature of the relationship between the two organizations, but also to identify what will be the goals of this partnership with the Century Promise and how we are going to measure the success of the Century Promise. Mr. Dahl and I have been working on a draft, and that draft has been presented to the attorneys for both organizations. And so we are hopeful that we will be able to get the document finalized later this month so that we can share that draft with the board and of board of directors with the Allentown School District and with the board of trustees at the Century Promise. And so our next step in that MOU process would be to present at the September COW meeting, if all goes well with the attorney's review, so that we can then formally adopt. I apologize. So that we can formally adopt the MOU at the second board meeting in September. And so that MOU is the next big step in our progress. As Mr. Dahl mentioned, there's a pilot program that will be launched this fall with the start of a new school year. And then last but not least, there will be a public celebration and public release rolling out the program at a date to be determined. And we will get that date to everyone and the community so that we can really celebrate this really innovative and unique program, as Mr. Butts described, that is really cutting edge and is going to, change the game, not only for our families here in Allentown, but I believe there will be others across the country that are going to model their programs after this one so that they can provide this type of opportunity to their students and their families. Madam Chairwoman, that concludes our presentation this evening, and we certainly are open to answering any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Dr. Stanford. As everybody will note, it is just a presentation and discussion only. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I just want to say thank you very much to everyone who was mentioned tonight. This is Lisa Conover. I'm not there physically, but I am here. I just want to say thank you very much, because this was a vision that I think we all had, and I think it was divine. And I just thank everybody for participating. I'm looking forward to, again, Allentown becoming a model school district as a result of this game changer.
Thank you, Ms. Conover. Anyone else? If my colleagues would indulge me for just a minute before we move on to the next agenda item. Tonight, we would actually like to recognize Mr. Lee Butts for his decades of partnership with the Allentown School District. As many of you know, in April, we had our partnership summit, and we recognized several organizations within the community for their longstanding partnership with the district. And we looked at organizations that showcased longevity, engagement with our students and stakeholders in a meaningful way and a high level of impact. And I think tonight's presentation just solidifies the legacy that Mr. Butts has had in our district. I was a young staffer for a legislator years ago when I first heard you talk about your dedication to ASD with your Education 2010 vision. And here we sit in 2022. And you just presented a phenomenal opportunity for the students of ASD. So you weren't able to join us in April due to circumstances not in your control, but I have your award this evening and I would like to just come down and present it to you while you're here. So on behalf of my colleagues, Dr. Stanford, the staff, students, thank you for everything that you do for not only ASD, but the as a whole. It's really all right. Thank you for. Yes. Okay. So that brings us to our next agenda item, which is actually discussion and action. And for that, I will call Ms. Tiffany Pollock to the podium.
Good evening. I would like to talk about policy 246, the school wellness policy. It was last revised and approved in June.
We're in education.
I'm sorry that I should have read what was the agenda item. So
Okay.
it's the 2022-23 health and safety plan. My apologies.
All right.
We went out of order tonight so that.
Okay, next. Disregard. I would like to request the board's approval for the 2022-2023 health and safety plan. So due to receiving ESSER's funding, ASD is required to have a health and safety plan and review it every 6 months. We will continue to monitor and review based on the latest guidance from the CDC, PA Department of Health, the Allentown Health Bureau, St. Luke's, and LVHN. The guidance, along with the Lehigh County COVID community levels, will be used to determine appropriate prevention and mitigation strategies. So a few of the critical components of the plan include optional masking, which was approved in March. In addition to the asymptomatic individuals who are COVID positive, they are able to return following a 5-day quarantine if they're asymptomatic and are required to mask for an additional 5 days. That was also approved in March. Students and staff will still be required to report their COVID positives to the nurse or their supervisor, and we will continue to monitor those numbers if we need to make adjustments to the plan. We will discontinue use of the ASD COVID dashboard unless we see reason to go back to doing that. And last, we will continue to work with our local health partners to offer COVID vaccination clinics and also our routine vaccination clinics for the upcoming school year. This plan's a fluid document and we'll continue to review it and revise it as needed based on the guidance. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to move the thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thiel, second by Mr. Miller. Is there any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looking forward to our board meeting on August 25th. That brings us to item number 2, unique learning curriculum. Mr. Brian Sickett. It's also a discussion and action item.
Good evening. Requesting the board's approval to renew unique learning systems for K-12 for our low incidence students. This is a cloud-based platform that aligns to the Pennsylvania alternative assessments, the PASA instead of the PSSA. These are for our low incident students. It allows the online curriculum allows students to follow personalized learning paths as well as their IEP goals. The cost of the unique learning system is $79,417. And again, this is a renewal, which is paid for through access funds. Any questions?
My colleague? There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Fields. Is there a second? Ms.
Second.
Robinson, is there any further discussion? All in favor of moving this forward to the regular meeting at the end of the month? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Move forward. Next item is element proposal for data instructional support.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm here to ask your approval of a renewal for our work with Education Elements. We have worked with Education Elements the past couple of years with our walkthrough cycles and having principals complete walkthroughs, come back together, analyze the data, provide professional development and repeat those cycles. This year, our proposal also focuses more on data analysis. So not only will a principal be looking at or a school leadership team be looking at their walkthrough data, but they'll also be looking at their assessment data hand in hand. This way, we are providing principals with more support to really drive the instruction in their schools with what they need based on both data sets. To give you some feedback and data from last year's walkthroughs, we completed 1,590 walkthroughs. There was a 30% growth to higher evidence of shifts in instructional practice in the areas of student engagement, targeted instruction, and differentiation. This proposal is at a cost of $330,000.
Any questions? I entertain a motion. Mr. Fields, is there a second?
Lisa Conover.
Conover, any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor of moving this forward to the regular board meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed? This moves forward. Thank you very much. And I think the next item is you as well, Ms. Smith.
Myself and some of my peers and colleagues will be helping me.
Okay, for comprehensive plan.
Yes. So tonight we're asking for the approval of the district comprehensive plan, which will be from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Just like our schools have school improvement plans, this format is very similar to what our district comp plan looks like. In addition to the district comp plan, we do have our gifted education assurances, our student services assurances, the induction plan, and a professional development plan that supports our plan. This work really does begin the work of building out our blueprint for success. And this work is aligned with the vision of the blueprint for success. Our school improvement plans will be aligned to our district comp plan moving forward. So that way we are all being very targeted and very specific in what we are offering our students so we can see greater gains from our students. Next slide, please. The process for our comprehensive plan. We started with the fireside chats and we received some feedback from our community members with the fireside chats, which then came into our superintendent's entry plan report, which became the blueprint for success. The two main priority areas that we will be working on through this plan are accelerating the academic achievement for all students, as well as improving the culture, climate, and equity district-wide. This comprehensive plan was driven by stakeholder engagement, the superintendent's vision, and aligned with some of our school improvement plans already. Next slide, please. Our process is we had the community feedback. We had teacher voice, which was really captured during our curriculum meetings. The curriculum is a very big part of our comprehensive plan. Student academic data was used. We used the Future Ready data. We used our STAR data and that preliminary PSSA data. We used our culture survey and our attendance data. We surveyed our school leaders on our instructional practices, and we disaggregated the data to identify equity considerations for students with disabilities and English learners. Next slide, please. Some of our key findings were in attendance. That attendance is low across the district. The number of chronically absent students increases with age and grade level, and students with disabilities are disproportionately likely to be chronically absent. In literacy, our literacy instruction was stronger in learning to read than reading to learn, and the equity gap for students with disabilities and English learners widens over the course of the year for most of our grade levels. In math, our strengths centered around using graphing, and our weaknesses centered around application and mathematical reasoning. Math performance significantly decreases in 4th grade and in middle school, and you will see targeted goals based on that data. And our graduation rate is lower than the Pennsylvania average. Within the next slide, please. Thank you. The priorities areas that we addressed were reading, math, language acquisition, attendance, culture and climate, and graduation. Currently, some of the district supported strategies that you will see that schools have access to immediately with support from central office is professional development, both at the leadership level and at the teacher level. Walkthroughs with the contract from Ed Elements, which also include data strategy and visualization, data analysis and review, and extended day learning. In October, once the new grant cycle starts, we will have 19 out of our 21 schools having a 21st century learning program. So we're very excited for that. There are more strategies built into the plan or strategies that need to be built out. However, these are the ones that we are ready to offer our buildings as support moving forward to increase student learning. And again, this comprehensive plan is 3 years long. So we have 3 years for our implementation. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Bryant to talk about the reading goals.
Good evening. So tonight, briefly, the goals that are tied to our priority area for reading are centered in our elementary area, following in line with what Dr. Stanford has laid out in his plan, that we have a strong emphasis on building and securing foundational skills. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of jump to the 3rd grade goal. As you may or may not know or remember, that is a goal by and large across the country, but also particularly in PDE, that school districts are working to support so that we have what's called that reading by grade 3 goal. So around that goal, we have in our 3 years out, our target is to move our students to a proficiency rate it would be on grade level or above, and we would be shooting for 51% of our students to be at that in 3 years' time as our goal. In order to get there, though, we need to be strategic and come down to our kindergarten level. So we have a very tight goal and timeline there. Within 3 years, we would like to see 85% of our kindergarten students having mastery in those foundational skills. And we plan to do that by having targeted data-informed academic interventions. We'll use that data to address gaps in students' foundational reading skills.
As with reading, similar in math, we're going to be using targeted data-informed academic interventions. Through the process of looking at the data, foundational math skills leading to Algebra 1 readiness is really where we need to go. You saw earlier that there's a dip when you get to 4th grade in math, and then there's also a dip in middle school, which leads to students not being ready in Algebra 1. So ensuring that they are ready, they're ready and they understand those foundational math skills is going to be really important to ensure that Algebra 1 readiness by 8th grade. So what you'll see in math is similar. You'll see we're looking at proficiency in grade 4 math, increasing by 10% a year to 41.49%. And those students proficient in 8th grade math from 1.96 to 31.996%. If they can be proficient in 8th grade math, they will be Algebra 1 ready by the end of 8th grade. So that's the goal for math.
Good evening. Our language acquisition goal through the comprehensive plan includes increasing the number of schools meeting or exceeding the statewide average for L's, achieving English language growth or attainment from 50 to 80% of our schools. By June 2023, we're striving to have 60% or 12 of our schools meeting or exceeding the statewide average. By 2024, 70% or 14 of our schools meeting or exceeding the statewide average. And then by June 2025, having our L's achieving language growth or attainment from 50 to 80%. And we plan to continue to implement the Middlebury program, continue to use lost links for progress monitoring of our students, and increase the capability and capacity of our teachers of L's to better understand lost links data and use it to drive instruction. And we are also going to rejuvenate our roll call process with our facilitators and SOIs at all of our schools so that we are all better informed about our data and can make informed decisions for instruction. Thank you.
The next priority area is attendance. And if we implement a tiered system of attendance supports, we can improve our regular attendance while providing additional supports to students who are either chronically absent or at risk of being chronically absent. So a student who misses 10% of school is considered chronically absent. So it's roughly 18 days a school year. Our goal is to decrease the number of students who fall within that range from 47% to 20% over the next 3 years. 20% is roughly where we were pre-pandemic. So the first year, by the end of June 2023, we would decrease by 7% to 40%, and then 10% each additional year. The intervention supports start with our attendance teams at the building levels, where they look at individual students and determine what interventions need to be put in place. In addition, we've redistributed our outreach workers who primarily support attendance. And one of the strategies that they will be using is a research-based check and connect mentoring program, where they will work with individual students who are at risk to hopefully improve their attendance over time. The next area is culture and climate. And this year we implemented PDE's climate survey, and PDE defines climate as the quality and character of school life that's based on patterns of student, parent, and staff experiences and perceptions of school life. So ASD students, staff, and families and community members took part in the survey, and the survey showed that we needed to improve in the area of social emotional learning. So the priority is to emphasize the social emotional competencies and the initiatives that support those competencies. And hopefully we'll see that improvement in climate and culture district-wide. So the goal is to improve that average domain score for social emotional learning with the climate survey from 2.69 to 3.4 over the next 3 years.
And the last goal is graduation, really emphasizing that if we communicate real world relevance and those skills taught in school, that students will be able to connect graduating with meeting their post-secondary goals, whether that be college and or career. We are at 80.3. We're looking at increasing from an 80.3 graduation rate to 90% over the next 3 years. So this year, 83.5, the following year, 87, and the following year at 90%. Really connecting the real world relevance really does come into place with the previous presentation when you're thinking about the Century Promise as well. Like, what is that guarantee?
Thank you. Do you have any questions regarding the district comp plan?
From my colleagues. Thank you very much, Mr. Palmer.
Just something that sparked my interest with the attendance. I guess as an example, like, how does that work for working with the students? Like, if you had a student that wasn't able to attend because they were working to support their family, like, what do you do in that instance?
Attendance is required by PDE, so it isn't something, it would depend on the age of the student. Unless the student is 18, they wouldn't be able to be working and not attending school. But we would work with that family and that student to see what the barriers are. We also are partnered with a number of community agencies that also meet with families as well to help with whatever supports they need.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to move this forward to the regular board meeting. Ms. Ortiz, second by Ms. Matheson. All in favor of moving forward? Aye. Opposed? Okay, this moves to the regular board meeting at the end of the month. This brings us to item number 5, middle school transformation partner contracts. Mr. Sang.
Good evening. Middle school transformation is listed as a critical area in strategy 1H under priority 1 in our ASD blueprint for success. It was also previously mentioned as a part of the Century Promise. Tonight, we're requesting the board's approval to sign the contracts for middle school transformation partners for the scope of work they're providing to each school as a part of our middle school transformation initiative for the 2022-2023 school year. The board enacted a similar process last November to put in place these contracts for the 2021-2022 school year.
Any questions? Is there a motion to move this forward to the regular board meeting? Mr. Thiel, is there a second? Ms. Matheson, any further discussion? All in favor of moving this forward, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, this moves forward to the regular board meeting.
Thank you.
Bless you. If it's all right with my colleagues, items 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all purchases. If it's all right with everyone else, we'll do the presentations, pause for questions after each one, and then do the vote at the end.
Thank you, Mrs. Well. So the next 4 purchases are to leverage our CSI funding to support our middle schools. All of these purchases were made in collaborations through the grants office with Mr. Sang as the executive director of middle school transformation, as well as the school leaders and teachers within the buildings. The very first one that we'll do is Exhibit F. This is providing 4 days of discovery education professional learning packages to each of our middle schools at a cost of $72,000. And this will provide 36 of virtual hours of professional development per middle school as well. So teachers will be getting support from Discovery Education on the science and social studies textbooks, and also how to leverage our Promethean boards that they will have in their classrooms to utilize this technology.
Any questions?
Okay, Exhibit G is bringing in Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for blended coaching membership cost of $78,000. Each middle school will be provided to have 4 in-person days and 8 coaching and 8 sessions of 30-minute live online sessions. And these are the programs that we have, instructional programs, core programs we have in our buildings. So Journeys, Science Fusion, Go Math. So again, having teachers have professional development on the spot in September to support them moving forward, as well as the virtual support so that teachers can turn around and use it right in their classroom, is what we were aiming to do in the month of September to support our middle schools.
Any questions?
The next exhibit H is Legends of Learning subscription for middle school students at a cost of $22,800. This is a program that the teachers expressed interest in wanting, and what it does is provides lesson plans, instructional games, and formative assessments to students in science and math.
Any questions?
And our final exhibit, Exhibit I, is the Nearpod premium subscriptions for all middle school students at a cost of $28,236. And access to the Premium Plus will include interactive lessons, activities, a video library, and online professional training for teachers.
Any questions from my colleagues? Okay, then I, at this time, would entertain a motion for exhibits F, G, H, and I. So moved by Mr. Thiel, seconded by Ms. Matheson. All in favor of moving these items forward to the end of the month board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? These all move forward to the regular board meeting. Do we have any non-agenda items, Madam Secretary? Okay, well then at this point, is there any old business? Any new business to come before the committee? Grass catchers? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Education Committee of the Whole. Okay, is there a second? Ms. Matheson, meeting adjourned. That brings us to the Policy Committee meeting for August 11th, 2012. So in lieu of Zoom, I'd like to call to order the Policy Committee of the Whole for the Board of Directors for the School District for the City of Allentown for today, August 11th, 2022. Any agenda item cards? Okay, that brings us to our first item. Ms. Pollock.
I'm back. The school wellness policy was last revised and updated at the June board meeting. Based on feedback from PDE, we had to make a minor update to the wellness committee section of the policy that includes physical education teachers and school health professionals to the committee. And specific language was also added stating that the committee will participate in development, implementation, review, and updates to this policy. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from my colleagues? There's a motion on the table to move this forward to August 25th by Mr. Thiel. Is there a second? Ms. Ortiz, any discussion? All in favor of moving this forward, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? This moves forward to the board meeting on August 25th. Do we have any non-agenda items? All right, any new business to come before the board, or excuse me, old business? New business? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Thiel, is there a second? Second. Ms. Ortiz? All in favor of adjourning the policy committee for the evening?
Aye. Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. I'm off the hook for a while. I yield the floor to my colleague, Mr. Miller.
All right, I'd like to call the Building Committee of the Whole for the month of August to order. Any comments from the superintendent?
Mr. Chairman, no, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, any comments on agenda items? No comments. All right, I'll turn it over to the administration for the preview of the new middle school. Mr. Smith?
Yes, good evening. Tonight, I'll be requesting board approval of Plan Con A and B for the new East Side Middle School. Plan Con A is for project justification, which provides a description of the proposed project and the justification of its need. Plan Con B is the schematic design, which provides the overall organization and relationships of the spaces, circulation patterns, utilization and adequacies of the site. As part of the 10-year capital improvement strategic planning recommendations and careful consideration of stakeholders, the district administration recommended to the school board of directors to proceed with the construction of the new East Side Middle School on the district's Moser Woods property and the replacement of Harrison Morton Middle School with a new building on its current site. As such, the school board of directors approved a resolution to commence design of the new 5th Middle School. The recommendation organized the middle school construction options from the feasibility study update into a comprehensive, actionable 10-year capital plan. The administration determined that the Allentown School District is best served by 5 middle schools. That will allow for smaller student populations in newly constructed facilities, which will improve accessibility, provide safe learning environments, and provide the best opportunity to implement the middle school transformation plan and align with the priorities and strategies identified in the superintendent's entry plan report. As such, and in sequence, the first step is the design and construction of the new East Side Middle School, which will create the critical swing space for the relocating the Harrison Morton Middle School students while Harrison Morton Middle School is being replaced. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Michael Ackerman of Breslin Architects and Mr. Dirk Friend of Alvin H. Butts and Mr. Bob Court from Barry Ice and Associates for further review of this action. Please know that this action request has been reviewed by the district solicitor, and I will be recommending this item be considered as an action item at the regular school board meeting rather on August 25th, 2022. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What we're going to show you tonight is a schematic design for your new middle school. We've been working on it for quite a few months now. The first slide we're showing is a contextual slide. And to the right, there's a large green area. That's your new site. It's a 22-acre wooded site, which is directly behind Moser Elementary School. The next slide, please. This is just a simple massing of how the building will relate to the site. The front element of the project will be a 3-story academic wing. And then a linear courtyard will slide behind this wing, providing natural light into the academic wing. And beyond that is a shared use wing, which will have a gymnasium, an auditorium, music facilities, and a cafeteria. At the front of the site is the existing Moser Elementary School. This is considered a K-8 campus. Both the schools will be able to share either facilities. The next slide, please. This is a detailed site plan of the facility. In the lower left is the Moser Elementary School. And on the right side of the screen, you can see our new middle school. The building is sited off to the right to take advantage of flatter part of the site. The site has about a 100-foot rise across it from the back of Moser to the Reservoir Park at the top of the site. We also have a wetland area, which you can see to the left of the site where the blue is. There's a nice little shallow pond, only 1.6 feet deep, which will be used as an environmental tool. It's used as an environmental tool now for the elementary school, but we're going to expand that with the middle school complex. There will also be a park that'll be included with the wetland area, which will be hopefully a neighborhood park, which will front the side of the new middle school. Next slide, please. This is an enlargement, and I know it's hard to read, but it's an enlargement of the Moser Elementary School at the bottom of the site. We're going to reorganize the rear of the building to incorporate a bus loop for special education. Also, we're going to reorganize the back so we can get some handicap parking in to the rear of the building. And we're also going to provide a new handicapped secure access on the back side of Moser Elementary School. Next slide, please. This shows a section through the site. The lower section is an existing section. You can see the rise from the back of Moser Elementary School to the top. It's 100 feet of rise. It's a gentle slope for the most part. You can walk it easily. And then the upper section shows the building cut into the slope. The back building, the shared use wing, the back of that building will be actually a retaining wall to hold back the earth upslope. We go to the next slide. This is the ground floor, the first floor. The first floor you enter from the parking lot. And the plan has a slight angle to it. It actually works with the contours of the site to minimize excavation because we have a little rock issue here. So we really tried to balance the elevation of the building with the contours. We have to the right on the straight portion of the plan is an academic wing, which there's 3 of them stacked identically, 1, 2, 3. They're centered around 2 science labs at the center with a collaboration area outside of it, 10 regular classrooms, 3 special ed classrooms, and a faculty workroom. And that's stacked 1 grade per floor, boom, boom, boom. To the left on the skewed portion is where administration is in the main lobby. If we go to the next slide, we have an enlargement of that area. We have the main lobby. You come up a series of steps, and there's a handicap ramp to the left of that. Administration is directly on your left, and there's a secure entry sequence to get into the building. There's a locked vestibule, a security vestibule off of that locked vestibule, and there's a security guard in the main public space, which monitors the whole series of in and outs. So we have administration. To the left of administration, we have a programmed community space, which they're still deciding what that's going to be, but we have a block of space that's going to be used by the community. Behind administration is guidance and health. Administration is also broken up. We have an administrative suite on the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor also. So administration monitors every floor. We go to the next slide. Next slide shows the middle level of the school. At the middle level is where you actually access the rear shared use wing. So this is your largest floor in the building. It's in the middle. It's in the proper space. On the left side, we have a library over administration. It'll be 2-story space. It'll look out over the community, look back to Center City. It'll also look back over our new neighborhood park to the left. We have another academic wing to the right. And then there are 2 glass bridges to the right, to the left that take you back to the shared use wing. The shared use wing from left to right, we have a gymnasium, which will seat 900, seat the whole student body. We're going to have a functional capacity, I forgot to mention that, of 900 students. So you'll be able to fit the entire student body in the gymnasium. Just to the right of the gymnasium are some auxiliary gym spaces, locker rooms. Towards the center of the shared use wing, we have a 440-seat auditorium, which is anchored with restrooms on either side and music facilities on the left side of that. All the way to the right, we have a dining facility with a food court. And behind that, we have mechanical spaces and receiving. The next slide, please. This is the uppermost floor, which is really only accessed on the front, which is the 3rd floor academic wing. On the left, we have the upper floor of the library. There's some large group rooms behind the library, which are not yet programmed. Another academic floor. Along with what I mentioned earlier about the academic floor being identical on each floor, 10 classrooms, 3 special eds, 2 science labs. At the very end of each academic floor, we have incorporated family consumer science, art, and tech ed. So we brought those program elements back into the academic wing up front instead of in the old school where they would be behind the stage. So everybody's up front now, except for music, which really has to be by the stage. Next slide, please. This is a rendering. I'm sorry for the quality of the projection here. But this is,
That's our fault.
that's your, yes, that is your fault. This shows the front rendering, front elevation of the building. The stair tower is prominent on Fairfield Street, the main access point to the site. To the left, the large glazed area is a two-story library space. That looks back out over the city, looks over the new park. And to the right, you can see the regular pattern of windows for the classroom wing. Very simple, very powerful. Will not be dated over time. The next slide is an enlargement of the entrance. You can see the stair. We have 7'6" rise and steps to get to the front entrance. That has to do with the slope of the site. There's a handicap ramp to the left. Glass stair tower, which could be lit up at night. You'll be able to see that from Center City. You see the main glass lobby going straight ahead. Next slide, please. This shows a view back from Dauphin Street with Moser Elementary to the left, which will be getting new windows. That building will be cleaned up. So it'll be a nice complement to the new building, and you can see the new building in the woods beyond. And that's a short preview of the building. That's where we are at this point. All the spaces in the building have been blocked out. The next phase, which will be design development, will take every room in the building and blow it up to a large scale and meet with your different departments and decide how every room is actually going to be laid out. It's a fairly involved process. When that's done, we'll bring it back to you for design development approval. I'll turn it over to our civil engineer at this point, who will discuss the entry points to the site.
Good evening. Mr. Ackerman's already given you an orientation to the site. I'll just briefly touch on the access and circulation here. 5 intersections were studied as part of the early work here. East Hamilton Street and Hanover Avenue at South Carlisle Street, South Carlisle Street and East Walnut, South Carlisle Street and East Union, East Fairview and South Dauphin, and East Walnut and South Ellsworth. All of them, we evaluated the pre-development condition and then ramping up to a post-occupancy. None of them had an adverse impact based on the project. We did traffic counts in January of 2022. We've submitted a preliminary traffic study to the city, and they've been in the review process for about the last 90 days. The access to the site will principally be for buses on the right-hand side of your screen, coming to the top of the screen and then looping through and coming back down through the same access point. Parent drop-off and staff would principally be coming in from the left, and we have a particularly long queue capacity through the parking lot, so everyone should be able to circulate through, pick up their children and make their way back out. Really, the district would anticipate no more than 5 buses on any given day. And again, they would access from the right-hand side and work their way back out. So the other thing that's being taken into account here to offset the impact is the start and departure time for the middle school, and the elementary school will be offset, so it's not all happening at the same time. With that, I'll turn it over to Dirk Friend from Alvin H. Woods.
Evening. Well, yes, in conjunction with the building and site design is our schedule and our budget. So I'll start with the schedule here. And the schedule is categorized into 2 primary phases, the pre-construction phase and the construction phase. The first date that you'll see there is for tonight, being the schematic design plan con board approval. The milestone schedule for the pre-construction phase is identifying all of the board decisions and approval dates, which take us through the approval of what would be your construction contract in approximately a year in October of 2023. So included in those dates over the next year would be approving the design development, having the Act 34 public hearing, and then also approving the construction documents. So as this project moves through, there'll be these different parts of this pre-construction phase for the board to see the project again and also see updates on the design, the schedule, and the budget as well at those plan con approval. Then for the construction phase, having received bids in October or September and approving to go ahead in October, we would begin site clearing in the fall, late fall, winter of 2023. And then earnestly get into the site and building construction early 24. Approximately a 2-year construction phase. A little more than that, we will target then moving in May to July of 26 and being ready for the start of school year 26-27. Any questions on the schedule? All right, next slide, please. So the estimate and the budget at this point has been presented. The project covers not only the new middle school, but some elementary school renovations. And then the third part of our overall budget is the category of soft costs. So these are the costs as presented in the Plan Con Part A for your approval. Under the middle school cost, there's our structure cost, the site work cost, and then there's a contingency. And all of those at this time are estimated to be around 81 million. The elementary school cost, including the contingency, are approximately 1.35 million. And then our soft cost, which includes the professional fees, movable fixtures and equipment, additional construction related costs such as the CM fee, financing cost, all are in the $16 million range of cost. And we're looking at a total budget then right now of 98,250,000. Any questions on the budget?
Any questions from my colleagues? Any questions? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dirk. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr.
So
Mayor.
this is an action item. So I will need a motion to move this forward. Mr. Thiel, do I have a second? Ms. Matheson, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this item moves to the end of the month board meeting. And then second, we have the award for the Deer secured entrance renovations. Mr. Smith.
Again, good evening. Tonight I'm requesting board approval to award the bid for the Lewis E. Deer High School secure entrance renovations to Walter Brucker and Company Incorporated, P.O. Box 57, Ottsville, PA 18942, for the lump sum amount of $190,000. 2 bids were submitted. Walter Brucker and Company was the lowest responsible bidder. The action request has been reviewed by the district solicitor, and I recommend this item be considered as an action item at the regular board meeting on August 25th, 2022.
Any questions from my colleagues on Deer renovation of the secured entrance? Hearing and seeing that, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Thiel has made that motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Wilt? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this too moves forward to the end of the month meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any comments from the public on non-agenda items? No comments. Old business, new business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Thiel, Mr. Ortiz on the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, this meeting is adjourned.
Before we move on to the finance, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if everyone, it's 8:10, if everyone could please be back on the dais by 8:15. Thank you.
support services and also the services associated with that as well. Are there any, Madam Secretary, are there any comments from the public on agenda items?
On agenda items.
Thank you very much. I would like to also thank Jen Ramos for filling in the role of board secretary in the moment again, as she has so faithfully done over the years, always willing to step up and step in no matter what it means. Thank you, Jen. Or I should say Miss Ramos or Madam Secretary. Dr. Stanford, do you have any comments this evening from the Finance Committee?
Mr. Chairman, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. I do hope you feel better, Dr. Stanford.
Thank you.
Out of these 4 items, my colleagues, as opposed to going through individually, we can certainly take any questions that you may have on these items. Does anybody have any questions specifically for the administration on these items? Any of these 4 items here? Any questions for the administration on these items? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept all 4.
So moved.
Ms. Ortiz, second. Mr. Miller,
Ms. Conover?
questions on these items?
I did have a comment.
Go ahead,
about
Mr.
the
Palmer.
Atlanta bus service. I am happy that they are no longer, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're no longer paying for the bus service as long as they have an ID.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm very happy that we are finally doing that. That is very helpful for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Ms.
Hey, Miss Conover, Mrs. Conover? Mrs. Conover, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Did you have a question or comment?
No, I didn't. I was seconding it, but somebody else did.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to make sure we did, we captured anything you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And these 4 items move on to the board meeting at the end of the month. Madam Secretary, do we have any comments on non-agenda items? Thank you. Is there any old business? Any new business? Any grass catcher items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So
Thank
moved.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Conover. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Finance Committee, the whole meeting. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Don't go, don't head out yet. I'd like to call to order the to order the special meeting of the Board of Directors of the School District for the City of Allentown for today, August 11th, 2022. We all know the procedure. Or do we have any? Well, let me just stop. I'm tired. It's been a long day. If you have not yet filled out a comment card and you so wish to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item for the special meeting, please fill it out and hand it to Mr. Sicken. And now, can we please call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Brown. Ms. Conover.
Ms. Conover, we're calling the roll.
Present. I heard, I'm sorry, present.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Matheson. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Ortiz.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Present.
Mr. Thiel. Ms. Wood.
Here.
8 board members are present.
Very much. If you all could now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't have any remarks at this time. Dr. Stanford, do you have any remarks to share?
Madam President, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments on agenda items?
No comments.
No comments. Okay, that brings us to the first order of business, the Board of Directors report. This evening on the Board of Directors report, we have an obituary minute that Ms. Ramos will read into the minutes for us, as well as resolutions regarding Cleveland and McKinley, and also a contract for Michael Roth for CAO. So with that, I will pause and allow you the opportunity to read.
It is with sincere regret and deep sorrow that we record the death of Margaret A. Atkinson on August 1st, 2022. In recognition thereof, the Board of Directors submits the following obituary minute and resolution. Whereas Margaret A. Atkinson was a faithful and devoted employee of the Allentown School District for almost 41 years, and whereas in her position as a paraprofessional at Brigadier General Anna Mae Hayes Elementary School, she carried out her duties in a caring and professional manner, and whereas she treated colleagues, other staff, and students with a cheerful attitude and willingness to help, and whereas she exhibited passionate commitment to the education of students, and whereas she provided the students of Brigadier General Anna Mae Hayes Elementary School with a pleasant and encouraging learning environment. And whereas her passing is marked by a deep sense of loss across the district, be it resolved that the Board of Directors take note of the untimely death of this faithful employee by causing this obituary minute and resolution to be spread upon the permanent minutes of the board this 11th day of August, 2022, with a copy to be sent to her bereaved family. Respectfully submitted, Nancy Wilt, President, Lisa A. Conover, Vice President, Latarsha Brown, Phoebe D. Harris, Audrey Matheson, Nicholas P. Miller, Patrick Palmer, Jennifer Lynn Ortiz, Charles F. Thiel.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. May I have a motion for the approval of the Board of Directors report?
Madam President, point of order, can we vote on these individually?
We sure can.
Okay, thank you.
So the first, and with that, Mr. Miller, you're asking for each resolution
Yes,
separately?
A, B, and C.
And, okay. So at this time, I will entertain a motion for Exhibit A, which is the,
Obituary minute.
oh, I'm sorry, B, C, and D. My apologies, everyone. Exhibit B, which is the resolution for the former Cleveland Elementary School. Is there a motion? No motion. Mr. Thiel, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Harris, is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Miss Matheson. Mr. Miller.
No.
Miss Ortiz.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
This is for B and C, correct?
Just B.
B.
Doing B, C, and D separately.
Can you, Madam President, can you say what B, C, and D is? You don't have to go totally through it, but can you?
B is resolution regarding Cleveland Elementary, C is McKinley Elementary, and D is the contract for Michael Roth.
Thank you, Madam President.
That's okay. Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Miss Conover,
Yes.
Miss Harris,
No.
6-2.
Okay, thank you very much. That takes us to Exhibit C, which is a resolution regarding the former McKinley Elementary School. Is there a motion? Ms. Matheson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Ortiz, is there any discussion?
I just want to make sure, because as I was reading it, it just says to rescind what we did previously and to just sell it to a charitable organization.
Correct. Same as the one prior. Any other questions?
So, and I just want to make sure this is for everyone. We can still put parameters in place of what we would like to see or not see done with whatever we are selling.
We can do deed restrictions?
Yes.
Yes. That is my understanding from conversations with the superintendent and the solicitor.
Okay, I just want to make sure this time around we can do those deed restrictions.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Miller,
No.
Miss Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel.
Yeah.
Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Miss Conover,
Yes.
Miss Harris,
Yes.
Miss Matheson. 7-1. Passes.
Okay. That brings us to Exhibit D, which is the contract for Dr. Michael Roth, Commission Chief Academic Officer. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Ortiz, is there any discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Miss Harris,
Yes.
Miss Matheson, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Miss Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel, Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Miss Conover.
Yes.
8-0 passes.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, before we dismiss.
We're not done yet, Ms. Harris.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
We're moving on to the personnel report.
Okay.
Okay. We did, Ms. Yes. We did. Okay, so Ms. Matheson has put a motion on the table for the approval of the personnel report. Is there a second?
Second, Lisa Conover.
Ms. Conover, is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Ortiz.
Sheridan, has a special place in my heart. And when I see somebody from Sheridan leaving, it saddens me. And Sheridan lost a good one. Courtney Barco taught my daughter in 3rd grade, and that was the year that everything was shut down. If it wasn't for her, my daughter wouldn't have made it through an entire year of virtual learning. She had the kids engaged. She was amazing with them. And I'm sure as frustrating as it was for her as an educator, she made it each day fun for the kids. Even my 5-year-old at the time was engaged with what she was teaching, even being 5 years old. That's how amazing she was. So I just wanted to say, a few words that she's going to be missed, and I wish her all the best in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Any other, Mr. Palmer?
I guess the same way. For Alan, it has a special place in my heart. And when I first looked at the personnel report, I saw Ms. Comagese is retiring, and she taught me for 2 separate years. And I went back and saw her maybe last year, and she was doing all the theater productions. She was making the costumes. She was doing the music. She was setting the productions together, and I don't know how they're going to replace her. That is going to be hard. And it hit me. I was just, wow, it's an end of an era there. And I also see that we have a new Allen High School principal. So I just wanted to make sure everyone took acknowledgement of that. It was a long process, and I told this person I would give them a shout out. Tanya Thompson is a new teacher at Rob, and she's a good friend of mine, and I wish her the best.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. And I would just always add what I always do whenever I review the personnel report. In my longevity in the district, there's always a lot of names on there. I had a similar reaction to you, and I just want to thank those that are departing, either through retirement or moving on to other chapters in their lives. Thank you for your service to our district, and for those joining us, welcome to ASD. Certainly hope that you enjoy your tenure here with us. And with that, we'll pause to call the roll unless there's any further discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel, Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Miss Conover,
Yes.
Miss Harris,
Yes.
Miss Matheson, Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Miss Ortiz.
Yes.
8-0.
And I'd like to pause and allow the administration the opportunity to recognize.
We have 2 of our new administrators here you just approved, Dr. Michael Roth, Dr. Michael Roth was just approved as the Chief Academic Officer, a position we've been looking to fill for quite some time. He started in Nazareth Area School District. He's been a principal, he's been an assistant principal, he's been an assistant superintendent and a superintendent in local districts. He's done private consulting, he's done work with Discovery Ed, HMH, and we're absolutely thrilled to have somebody sitting in that seat with us and excited for him to start next week, I believe, Dr. Roth. So congratulations and welcome. And last but certainly not least, as Mr. Palmer mentioned, Ms. Cheryl Clark has just been approved as the principal of William Allen High School. Ms. Clark, do you mind standing up? Thank you. Ms. Clark brings with her a wealth of experience in instructional leadership, instructional coaching. She's been an elementary, middle, and high school principal, a central office administrator, and we couldn't be more excited to welcome our first woman leader at William Allen High School. Ms. Clark, welcome. Congratulations.
Mr. Sultanic, Attorney Sultanic,
I can barely hear you.
point of order question for you. Ms. Harris has informed me that she misunderstood what exhibit B was regarding Cleveland Elementary and had intended to vote yes, but is in the record as voting no. Is there a procedural process that we could visit in new or old business?
Only if the board seeks to bring that entire action back for a vote, but it won't make a difference in the approval of that. Is that correct?
Correct. Can we note it in the record?
You can note it as part of the minutes. That's correct, that after the fact, board member Phoebe Harris indicated that she would have voted differently.
Okay. Duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sultanic. That brings us to the portion of our meeting for public comment on no cards. Okay, any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Everyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
People are getting up. We didn't even approve it.